All right, good morning, afternoon, everyone. My name is Benita Dimely Ross, and I will be the host for this TLC session today. Academic advisors and instructors working together for student success, presented by Heather Auger and Joshua Norris. We are excited that you have joined us today to hear Heather and Joshua's presentation. The chat window will not be open during the session, so please feel free to ask questions at the end of the session. Please welcome Heather and Joshua.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be going over the role of the academic advisor and instructors and how we can work together for greater student success. So I'm going to hand it over to Josh. He'll get started first.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Heather, would you be able to advance the slide? It's not letting me do so. There we go.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're going to start off with just talking a little bit about what it means to be an academic advisor. The goal of being an academic advisor is to help students overcome whatever obstacles that get in their way when they're trying to achieve their academic success. We're going to be that point of contact to help them get over that hump. And I'll speak from my personal experience. When I was in my undergrad degree, things came up that I wasn't fully prepared for, and I had my doubts that I wasn't going to make it. And I had people in my life that were able to help get me back on track. So I was able to finish that degree, and then down the road even get a master's degree, which 22-year-old me would have never believed to be a possibility. But I had a lot of good people in my life that helped me. So our role here at Ashford with the academic advisor is to be that support person for our students. Some of them may not have people in their lives like I did. I had an older brother and parents that had both been to college, so they helped be that support person for me. So we want to help them achieve their goals. Ideally, that would mean they would earn a degree or maybe multiple degrees here with us here at Ashford University or University of Rockies. At the end of the day, if they have to transfer somewhere else to get that degree, we're good with that. We want to just help them get closer to that finish line. We have some metrics that we have just to help us measure how well we're doing in that regard. The first kind of metrics are related to student retention. So that's the huge part of our role is student retention. And that boils down to basically how many of your students are active in class right now? How many have been able to overcome those obstacles? How many of your students are taking a break right now versus being active in school this week? So we look at those on a day-to-day, even hour-by-hour basis, because we want to try to help as many students as we can. We also have metrics that are more related to student service or customer service, more like qualitative type things. Like we'll listen to calls together and try to pinpoint where maybe a call went awry, or maybe where a call really turned the corner in a positive manner. We want to know, what do our students think about us? So me and my role in leadership, the students that I would talk to, they're either ones that had a really great experience or had a really poor experience. And both spectrums like to share their feedback, and I take that accordingly. So it's really important that we're measuring that. And we also want to measure something like how often is an academic advisor able to answer an incoming call from their student. Since we have essentially it's a remote campus, we don't have a traditional campus where people go on, it's virtual. So if a student takes out their phone, calls their advisor, that's essentially them walking into their advisor's office on campus. And if we're not there to answer the phone, that's like them walking into an empty office and there's no lights on and they're looking around like, well, all right, maybe school isn't for me. Some of our students, especially early on, are just looking for one thing to tell them, you know what, this isn't right for me, because they could be a little bit scared. So the more that we're able to be there for them when they need us, the better that we can do. And we can talk about some tasks now. So we have set up some tasks that will help us get to our goal of student success. The first kind of tasks I'll talk about, they're more administrative in nature. They're probably the tasks that many would think about initially when you think about what an academic advisor may do. Things like adjusting a student's schedule, adding a class, removing a class, changing a start date. Other things like knowing the university catalog really well, helping a student with a policy. I think back to my undergrad degree. I went to a traditional state school, And the scheduling process, they had developed essentially an automated process to schedule your classes. And we could do the same here. It's just we need to have more of a humanistic touch as well. So in addition to these very important administrative tasks, most of our day is spent on coaching type tasks, the ones that are there's more humanistic in nature. So the goal, or something that we would do, is we're talking to a student, we would try to individualize their need, try to figure out what does this individual student need. And we would do that by asking open-ended questions. And we would try to, you know what, let's see what this student may need individually, which could be different from the student I just talked to 5 minutes ago. So our VP student, so she is VP at her company, very successful, has good study skills, time management, is just on it as a student. And she gets hit with that senioritis bug that many of us have. So she might lose her motivation a little bit. What the academic advisor would do with her is start asking some questions related to her motivation and try to dig into their toolbox, in a sense, to say, all right, what resources do I have related to motivation that can help this student get to the finish line, because she's so close. And then after that call, I might get on the phone with a vastly different student. He could be in his first class. He's in EXP 105, first-time college student. He's highly motivated to get this degree. And it's been a lot of years since he's been in high school, and he's never written a college paper, never has used APA guidelines. That conversation is going to be very different. And we would ask a lot of questions of him and try to see where his comfort level is. And we would focus more on his soft skills, his successful student skills, like time management, study skills, setting up a good area to do your work. And to address the APA guidelines thing, we would say, you know what, let's look at the Ashford Writing Center together and look at some specific aspects of the Ashford Writing Center. While it is an amazing resource, I think if we are to direct a student to it blindly without much direction, it could be very overwhelming. There are like so many links in the Writing Center. So we would want to be very specific with this student. So we're going to look at a couple of things. When you're at your computer, I'll be at mine, and we'll call and we'll walk through it together. And just progressively, each call hopefully would add a little bit more to his plate until he's more comfortable with just writing in general and getting used to the APA guidelines. So really our goal is, like, we have a lot of resources here at our university, more than most schools probably do. And the most important resource are going to be the humans that the students interact with, whether that's their faculty and their instructor or their academic advisor. For the academic advisor, it's how can I find a resource that will help this student succeed? That's really what it boils down to, is being an academic advisor.
Thank you, Josh. There we go. Okay. So where I come in, I'm the English 121 faculty lead. And earlier this year, I was approached by Paula Battistelli and Justin Harrison. And we were looking at English 121 students who didn't pass. And as Josh mentioned, there's a lot of different reasons why they don't. And mostly it comes down to life circumstances. And so we thought, you know, there's these students that were just on the cusp of passing their class. And how can we team up with the academic advisors to help them pass not only 121, but future courses? So we did this Retake pilot earlier in the year, where we looked at students who had failed 121 with a D grade. So it was almost passing, because you need a C- to pass 121. And we reached out to them, and we gave them a chance to retake the course. And there were some financial stipulations involved. If they retook the course and passed, they were not financially responsible for that course. So that was the big incentive. But it wasn't just that easy. We really had to team up with the academic advisors to get the students on board. They had to retake or redo the sections of the course that they didn't pass. And mostly it was discussion boards and their final essay. So a lot of pre-work went into this pilot. We had to identify which students needed help. We had to make a list of the assignments that they missed, but we also had to work closely with the academic advisors to make sure that they were on the same page, and that when they reached out to those students, that they also knew what the student had to work on. And This was really my first experience working so closely with the academic advisors. I don't know what your experience is as fellow instructors, but I usually only heard from academic advisors when a student would be asking to pass the course. Like, you know, can you regrade this? Or, you know, it wasn't necessarily negative experiences, but it wasn't so positive. It seemed really limited, and I wasn't really sure all of what academic advisors did. So this pilot was a great way for us to start that communication between instructors and academic advisors. And so when we would reach out to them, I was given a list of the academic advisors, but that was because it was a unique situation. It was this unique pilot. So if you're not in that situation and you have a student that is struggling for whatever reason, maybe it's a single mom who works several jobs, or a military student overseas who is having internet issues and couldn't turn the paper in, whatever the issue is, and you feel like you should have the support of the academic advisor as well, the best thing to do is to go and find your FSE report. That's mailed to you, emailed to you every week. And it's, there's a lot of information in it, but if you look at the top, and here's an example taken from one of my courses, you'll see that there's the list of advisors and then the advisor email. And so you can email the advisor personally to ask a question or to give them a heads up. Sometimes students won't cue in their academic advisor on a problem. They'll just email the instructor, but it's really great to have that working relationship with both parties. So you can tell your academic advisor, you know, my student just informed me that they had surgery or their child is sick. Let's work together to make sure that this student can pass the course. Or if it's another issue, like maybe a student had accidental plagiarism, but you just want it to go on the record that the student needs to work on their academic honesty a little bit more, you can CC the academic advisor on that email, so they're in the loop with that conversation. And if you're not sure how to access your FSE report, I did hyperlink the job aid. If it doesn't work for you, let me know. You can email me after this and I can send that out to you. But it's something that you should receive every week if you're teaching a course. And Josh mentioned that yesterday to me that if you are teaching EXP 105, you might notice that the first few weeks a student is not assigned an academic advisor. It's usually week 3. Is that correct, Josh? So just give it some time. Week 4. Okay, sorry about that. So let's see. Okay, here is an example of an instructor working together with not only an academic advisor, but the enrollment department. And Josh shared this email with me. The top email is the email from the instructor to the enrollment department because she just didn't know who to reach out to. It's an instructor for EXP 105. And so the student didn't have an academic advisor assigned to them, or it just wasn't showing up in the FSE report. And so I'm not going to read this for you. You guys can read it yourself. But basically, the instructor just wanted additional support for her student, and she wasn't sure who to reach out to. So she emailed the enrollment department. The enrollment department forwarded on to Josh, who was then able to find that academic advisor for that student. And the academic advisor email is below, and it says, you know, thanks for reaching out. I also reached out to this student today. And so already the instructor and the advisor are working together to help this student, because we both want the students to succeed. We both want them to pass their class. We both want them to feel successful and confident here at Ashford. And so I love that Josh was able to share this email with us, and it's just one of many. Okay, so I'm going to mute my mic because we have a real live academic advisor to talk to us today.
He's real and he's wheeling in.
Thank you. Hey guys, my name is David Peterson and I am an academic advisor here with Ashford. In my role in the readiness department specifically, I work with students through their first 5 classes to try and prepare them for when they work with their college advisor who has a similar role but might not be able to reach out as much as I can due to population sizes. I have had the opportunity to work with a number of faculty members here for the betterment of our students, most recently with Catherine LaMonaco, a professor for English 121, in regards to a student that we shared, Tori. Tori had reached out to Catherine to see if there was anything that could be done about an unsuccessful grade that had just posted for her English 121 class. So Catherine and I were in communication about kind of all the options, but more specifically what option would work best for Tori in this instance. Catherine ended up allowing Tori to redo 2 of the grades in her class that kind of brought down the overall class grade most significantly. And then over the course of the next week, Catherine and I were in contact with each other as well as with Tori just to kind of make sure we were all on the same page. So the first resubmission of the assignments actually was not sufficient enough to bring up to the grade to the C- or better that is needed. And unfortunately, Catherine was unable to get in contact with Tori about this, but because of our collaboration together, she let me know. So the next time I was able to talk with Tori, I informed her of this as well as letting her know that Catherine would allow her to resubmit again, which led to the second resubmission and the passing grade of a C- in English 121. And while this probably isn't a unique situation, I'm sure it happens all the time, it sticks out to me not only because of Catherine's willingness to go above and beyond in her communication with myself to help Tori out, but also because it led to a successful grade in that course as well as a subsequent B in her next course. Many times an unsuccessful grade that early on in a student's time with us can lead to financial and academic issues that were seemingly avoided in this instance due to faculty and advisor working together for the betterment of our student, Tori. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, David. Just hearing about stories like Tori and David and Catherine working together, it honestly just gives me goosebumps. Like students like Tori are the reasons why we have jobs and why we work here. If it weren't for good collaboration from a faculty member and an advisor, Tori may not have passed that class and she might have checked out. Like I said earlier, sometimes our students, they have some self-doubt and one negative experience means, yep, I was right, can't do this. So hearing that she was able to not only pass that class and then improve to a B in her next class, it's just awesome. So thank you for sharing that, David.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're able to share that. Thanks for that. Because we have to remember who our students are. We have a unique population here at Ashford. The majority of them are older individuals who are coming back to school after being out for a long time. And for whatever reason that they've been out, but the important thing is that they're back and they need that support. And if you think about a traditional on-campus college, you have counselors and academic advisors that you can go to, and it's more prevalent and it's more real. And so for here, we're trying to bridge that disconnect that I think is there, but hopefully getting smaller. And also, I want to encourage instructors not to see the academic advisors as like separate, but as part of a team. Because I admit when I first started working here 5 years ago, I did see them as like a separate entity, not something that we could work together with. And so I'm just so grateful for that opportunity that we had at the beginning of the year. I got to know Josh, I got to know a lot of the academic advisors, and you as an instructor feels more supported, I think too. I felt that way. You just kind of have someone else that's helping you out with this student who has your back in some cases, and it's all for a good reason. It's all to help our students. Let me advance. So moving forward, we feel that the university is going to explore a more formalized relationship between instructors and academic advisors. So whether you are student facing or not, if you're an instructor or you're not, but we want you to consider these things moving forward. Ask yourself what sort of experience you've had with academic advisors thus far. positive, negative, neutral? You know, what is your idea of them and your experience with them? And then as an instructor moving forward, how do you see yourself bridging that gap between you and your working relationship with the student and the advisor? And I put this little graph up here where it shows instructor to student to academic advisor. And it's like a recursive process, because it really is all three of us working together for one common goal. Not to sound cheesy, but
It's true.
it's true. We're all on the same team. So let's see what the time is. We have time for questions, Josh.
You did it.
It run out.
Yeah.
So let me open up the chat box here. And questions or comments, whatever you have. Let me see.
And we have David still here too, our expert academic advisor, if there are any questions or comments for him.
And May mentions that sometimes we get part of the story from the student and then we get the whole picture from the advisors. And that's been my experience too. And vice versa. I've had a lot of academic advisors email me and say, hey, your student said that you would give them an extension on their paper. And then I'm like, no, that never happened. You know, maybe they wanted one. So again, it's bridging that gap. It's filling in those blanks. Any other questions? Or anything else that if Josh wants to share? Or?
I have that confirmation. I was copying questions and telling people, hey, make changes.
It says, how should we deal with the lack of email access to students? Should we send the student information in the Canvas inbox and copy paste? Oh, that's a good point, Ame, because things are a bit different in Canvas now.
Oh, good. At least you'll be able to see these.
Oh. Bonita, I'm going to mute Bonita. And is there any way we can know ahead of time if the student is on academic probation? Josh, I'm going to let you answer that one from Holly Lopez.
No, there's not really a way that I believe that you would have access to as an instructor. I have heard things in 2018 of new tools that both instructors and advisors will have. And for instructors, having more of like a dashboard type thing for your class that gives you more info about each student in that class. I think that would be a place to look for. I know that we don't have it quite yet, but I think that just speaks to what Heather was talking about as far as getting us all on the same page moving forward, advisors and faculty members. Mm-hmm. I believe that in the future, this dashboard would give you information like that, as far as is my student on some type of academic probation or not. You could, when you get your FSC, and you could email if you were ever questioning about a student. It may not be realistic to email all of the advisors about all of your students. I mean, if there was something you were questioning about, you definitely could. And I think that would be very much welcome by an academic advisor.
Holly, you don't need to respond in here if you can't, but I'm just curious, were you asking because of like academic dishonesty along those lines? If you could type, that'd be great. Also, Allison Reef, she wonders if it's possible to have the advisors email back letting the instructor know they received the email. I mean, when I do that, I get a response back like, yeah, thanks for the heads up. But
yeah, David, what would you? When you get an email from an instructor, what's your typical protocol?
I would say I'm kind of shocked that if you wouldn't get a response back, probably a one-off thing. I know even if it's something that I'm just kind of being kept in the loop on, I would definitely shoot back a message saying thanks for the information. So.
It would be hopefully an outlier if you were to email an advisor and not hear back, because each student is so highly important to the academic advisor, and hearing from a faculty member that wants to help a student, that's just money in the bank right there. It wouldn't make sense to ignore that, but hopefully that doesn't occur. If it does, I'll put myself out there as a point of contact though. So if you're ever trying to reach someone and you can't get in touch, similar to what happened yesterday with the EXP 105 instructor who had gotten in touch, it got to me, I'll find the advisor and we'll make sure that that student gets the help that they need.
Let's see. Chat question. I really appreciate the communication I have had with professors. Is there a specific circumstance we should stick to using the SCI ticket for, or start primarily reaching out directly to the professor?
I think that kind of depends. That would be a question from an academic advisor. The SEI, or the student contact to instructor, that's more of if you're simply trying to relay a message maybe from a student to an instructor. That's for if the student has said, hey, I've been reaching out and I just haven't heard back. And it's good to do the actual SCI ticket in those instances just so we can track those. And I'll say I teach EXP 105 as well. I'm very novice, so I've only done 6 or 7 classes. But in my last class, I had an FSDA email me and say, hey, this advisor let me know that your student's emailing you and not hearing back, which was a surprise to me because, for the record, it was not true. But anyway, I got that message and I was able to just reach back out. But it's just good to know that we're tracking it. So if I were an instructor and I consistently got that type of message, I think that would be some type of red flag. Maybe I'm really not responding to my students. So that's why we kind of lean towards doing the official contact. But once you start going back and forth with an instructor, then it's not like you would do an SCI for each email or anything like that. You would just kind of correspond via email.
Mm-hmm. And that made me think of one other thing. If you pull up your FSC email and for whatever reason an academic advisor is not listed or you can't find your FSC email, you can ask your FSDA who to reach out to, and then they'll contact the academic advisor department. So that's another way to keep those lines of communication open. Let's see, I think we have, it's 11:15, maybe one more question.
I see Wendy's on there about integrating an instant notification button in Canvas to alert an academic advisor about a situation. Not in Canvas per se, but the dashboard that I was speaking to, there's a company called Civitas that we have a relationship with now, and the advisor are getting a tool that's called Inspire for Advising, and hopefully instructors will get a tool that's called Inspire for Faculty, and within that dashboard, as a faculty member, it would list all of your students, and there would be a button with your student, and then next to them their advisor, and you'd be able to more easily communicate with that advisor, and vice versa for the advisors to see the instructor name next to their student, just kind of click a button and send a quick message that way. I think that's kind of the wave of the future.